Welcome all. In this video, we are going to begin with Unit 2 of our paper Literary Forms. Unit 2 is basically about drama, and of them, the first section or the first chapter we have is the dramatic art. Let's proceed to the next slide. The first part of this chapter creates a difference between drama and fiction. We know that they both are two different genres, and in this part of the chapter we can see how they both are different from each other. I'm reading from the text, page number 106. Drama presents fiction or fact in a form that could be acted before an audience. A play has a plot, characters, dialogue, an atmosphere, and an outlook on life, much as a novel has. But it is as a rule intended to be performed in public, not read in private. So here, what they are trying to say is, both fiction, that is a novel or any work of fiction, both fiction and play has certain elements in common. Which are those elements? The elements of plot, characters, dialogue, setting, thought. These are the different elements, and we have these elements common in both drama and fiction. But what makes drama different is the aspect of performance of it. We know if we have to watch a drama, drama is all about performance. Drama cannot be complete without performance. Its full effect, its full quality will only be revealed while it is presented on the stage. Whereas a novel is a self-contained unit. We have learned fiction in our previous semesters. Take the text Jane Eyre. If we take that novel, there is no performance aspect of it. If we have to perform the novel, then we have to change it into the form of a drama and write some dialogues and then perform it. Then it would be having a performative aspect. Other than that, this performance is the basic difference between drama and fiction. Thus, going through the points, the first one, fiction is a self-contained unit. We know they don't need the support of performance. Drama demands to be performed, then only the full quality of the play or drama, the work would be revealed. And drama requires external accessory. That too is very much known to us. What are the external accessory that drama requires? Performance. And as a part of performance, it includes lighting, costume, actors, even producers, directors. All these people, all these external accessories are a part of drama, while fiction doesn't have all these things. Fiction is a unit which is self-contained. It doesn't have any other external accessory. It doesn't seek for that. It carries all its meaning within itself. But drama, it is a composite art in which the author, the actor, and the stage manager all combine to produce the total effect. Here we can't say whose work is more important, because all of them should combinedly work to produce the effect. Now we can proceed to the limitations of the dramatist. Constraints of drama. A playwright or a dramatist, when they sit to write a play, they'll have a number of limitations in front of them. Let's take the example of a novel. If I'm going to write a novel, I can write it as long as I like. You will have a number of novels which would be very lengthy, very short. The chapter division or the complete length of the novel, everything would be upon my wish. But when it comes to a drama, it will have certain limitations, which are the constraint of time as mentioned here, the constraint of time, and it has to work with collaborators, and the cost and material requirements are other constraints that the novel and the dramatist has to take care. Let me elaborate on that point. First, the constraint of time. In drama, it has to exercise great economy in the handling of the plot and the delineation of character, in both of which all superfluous detail must be omitted. Remember the case of the Jane Eyre. There we'll have elaborate description of the buildings, of the mental state of the people, of the characters. But then, when it comes to drama, the dramatist cannot elaborate as he or she wishes. They should limit, they should omit, or they should delete all the superfluous, all the extra details, and make it short, include only the relevant details that is required for the story to continue, for the plot to produce, for the character to establish himself or herself. But when we compare it with that of the novelist, they can write, their novel can be long-winded or brief, minute or general, as he thinks fit. Then coming to the next point, that is the next constraint, that is the dramatist has to work with collaborators. A dramatist is not a person in isolation. If we take a novelist into consideration, whether that be Charlotte Bronte or any novelist, whether that be any novelist, there the novelist might have to take into consideration the reader who would be reading their text. Other than that, they don't have to consider anybody else. But while it comes to drama, the playwright or the dramatist, they have to take into consideration all the people who are associated with the drama, with the performance of the drama, production of drama. The audience, because the drama should entertain the audience, and actors, producers, musicians, and a number of other people who are associated, who are collaborating with the production of drama. It could be the audience, the actors, the producers, the scene painter, the dressmaker, the musician, the electrician, and many others. So the responsibility here, we can see that the responsibility of the dramatist or the playwright is much higher than that of the novelist. We can't say that writing a novel is an easy task, but then there are several constraints for a dramatist to write a drama, because it should have a specific structure. It shouldn't have so much of superficial details. Thus, when a dramatist writes, they'll take into consideration all these factors. And coming to the final point, that is cost and material requirements. That is, they should consider cost and other mechanical and physical limitations. There is an example that is given in the text. I'll read out from page number 107. To take but one instance, he cannot make one role unduly long, for that would put an undue strain on a single actor night after night and would be monotonous for the audience. Here, take the role, or take the situation of the actor. If the playwright won't take into consideration the actor and give him or her long dialogues, or the thing that is to be performed for multiple days, then it would put undue stress. It would put a lot of stress on the actor, and then they can't perform at their optimal level. Thus, he should take into account all those things, and let us consider the case like a single actor has to perform multiple roles because of the limitation of the number of actors we have in hand. then at that time we should have this playwright should take into consideration the time that is given to the actor to change their costume. Everything the dramatist should take into consideration. That is the major thing upon the duty of a dramatist or a playwright. The novelists don't have to bother about all these aspects. Thus, it is said that when a novel is written, it is finished. But when a play has been written, the worst difficulties still lie ahead. When a novel is written, since it is a self-contained unit, everything associated with it would be finished then. The novelist might have to wait for the publishers to accept his work and then get it published. Other than that, it as itself is a self-contained unit. Whereas a play, it is said that when a play has been written, the worst difficulties still lie ahead. The playwright has to take into consideration a number of things. Proceeding to the next slide. So before we move on to the next topic, can you think what are the major differences observed in the approaches adopted by a novelist and playwright? Refer to the previous slides and from what you have heard, try to answer this question. You know there are many limitations on the playwright while comparing him or her with a novelist. And then you can also trace out the essential differences between a drama and fiction. How fiction or a novel is a self-contained unit and how drama has much more in anticipation. What would the approach employed by poets? Comment. What do you feel? We have discussed the difference between the approach in writing drama and fiction, and what do you feel about the poets? You can think about that. And the next point that the chapter discusses is this, that the novelist can interrupt the story to explain their purpose, while dramatists speak through the characters. The characters are the mouthpiece of the dramatist. Mouthpiece are the thing or the people who speak for the playwright. Here I am giving you the example of the novel Joseph Andrews by the novelist Henry Fielding. Some of you would be familiar with the novelist because he was one among the four wheels of novel, if you remember. In that novel, as we read, we can see that the novelist or the narrator, they are speaking to the reader directly. But such a thing is not there in a drama. In a drama, if at all, the dramatist has to convey something to the audience, they should speak through the characters. The characters will act as a mouthpiece of the dramatist. So that is the difference here. But then in some of the Indian dramas, if we take, let's take the example of Girish Karnad's play Hayavadana. In that we have a character of the Sutradhara. Sutradhara is somebody who will stand there, who acts as a mouthpiece, and they or he will convey to us what the dramatist or what the playwright has to say to us. And then he will also say an introduction to the play. All these things, activities are done by the character called Sutradhara. Sutradhara will usually come at the beginning of a play and sometimes in between to say certain things which are not related to the play, obviously, to us. Yes. Now coming to the second topic of this chapter, that is the structure of play. We know there are different kinds of plays like tragedy, comedy, tragicomedy, all these are different kinds of plays. So tragedy will discuss, the theme of tragedy would be dark and serious, while that of a comedy would be light and gay, that is happy. So Both of them, both the tragedy, comedy and even tragicomedy, they all have almost a similar structure. As you all would be familiar because we had learned a few dramas and plays in as a part of our syllabus. A drama sets forth a problem or a conflict, and then the play would be about resolution of the problem, or a condition where the problem hasn't reached a conclusion. The conflict hasn't been solved. The drama could have either of these endings, and that decides whether a play should be a tragedy or a comedy. So you would be knowing the difference between acts and scenes, or you would have at least seen them in the plays we had learned. So act. Act is the major division in the action of a play. So a play is usually divided into acts, which are further divided into scenes. The act division usually indicates some development in the plot of the drama. So when some development happens other than the routine things, when some development happens, we'll have the next act. That is, after the first act will come the second, third and fourth acts. In the gap between the two acts of a play, the plot may have moved ahead in time, the setting might have changed, or a different set of characters might have entered the stage, because we know obviously there would be a progress in the plot from one act to another, and thus the plot would have moved ahead in time, and then the setting would have changed. Maybe in the first act it would be set in a forest, and in the next act it would be in a palace. So all the setting could be changing as well. So the major division of a play would be into acts, and within those acts we'll have scenes. It was the Elizabethan dramatists who introduced the 5-act structure of drama to England. The 5-act structure was developed by the dramatist Seneca. So that was introduced to England by the Elizabethan dramatists. We know several Elizabethan dramatists like Marlowe, Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faustus, then Ben Jonson. We have learned The Alchemist, then Thomas Kyd. He had written the Spanish tragedy. So all these are the major Elizabethan dramatists. They had mainly practiced the 5-act model, and the 5-act plays are modeled on the dramatist Seneca. The Seneca was a Roman philosopher, and you would remember the features of the Elizabethan theatre, because drama had gained much importance during the Elizabethan period. And the major features of the Elizabethan theatre are the theatre was open, and then people would stage in the balcony, the boxes, and there would be groundlings who would be standing and watching the plays, and then women's parts were played by boys, because at that time, during the time of Shakespeare, during the Elizabethan age, we didn't have women actors, female actors, and thus their parts would be played by young boys mainly. Before going into detail about the structure of the play, we also have to take into consideration the plays which have acts other than 5. It was in the 19th century the dramatists like Chekhov, Anton Chekhov, and Ibsen, they had introduced the plays which have 4 acts in total. So people practiced that as well. Dramatists followed them as well. And then nowadays, the most common system of practice, the most commonly practiced mode of drama is a 3-act play. Earlier, when a change of place or a break in the continuity of time happens, it is then that we'll change the scene. The dramatist will change the scene when there is a shift in place, from the palace to the forest, from the sea to the building. So such a change in place could give way to a change in scene, or there would be a break in the continuity of time. That is, the first scene would be in the morning, and then the next scene could be in the evening. So in that case also there would be a change in the scene. But nowadays, even without such a shift in place or time, people are changing scenes, where the scene could be two scenes, scene 1 and 2 could be both in the morning, both inside the palace. So nowadays all these traditional conventions are not that followed. So the following is the structure of a play. Please give importance to this 5-part structure of a play, because it is very important, and as long as you learn literature, drama, this will continue to be important. The first part of a drama would be exposition, that is the introduction, and complication or rising action. 3. Climax or crisis. 4. Denouement or falling action. And 5. Resolution or catastrophe. First, it is the exposition. The exposition to explain the circumstances or situation from which the action is to take its course. So it gives us the information of essential prior matters. It will give us an introduction. For example, Shakespeare's famous play Romeo and Juliet. In that, the play begins with this exposition, with this introduction, that there is a feud between the Capulets and the Mondeggs. So Capulets and Mondeggs are two families, and they have this quarrel that has been existing between the families for a long time. So the play will start with this introduction. It will set the play, set the background of the play, saying that both these families are not in good terms. So that is the exposition part. So exposition is the part that introduces the setting, the characters, and the context for the subsequent action. The second part is complication or rising action. It is here that the action progresses or grows more involved. So many things will happen to action. The rising action is the part where a conflict occurs. Some issue is beginning to happen. So take the example of Shakespeare's Hamlet. There, the rising action is when the ghost tells Hamlet that he has been murdered by Claudius. If you remember the storyline, the plot of the play Hamlet, King Hamlet is murdered by his brother, that is Claudius, in order to get power, in order to get married to his wife Gertrude, and thus the King Hamlet will come to Hamlet Jr., the Prince Hamlet, and the ghost of King Hamlet will come to Prince Hamlet and tells him that his death was not a natural one, but rather it was a murder that was planned and executed by Claudius and Gertrude as well. Thus, some development in the action occurs. There is some conflict that is happening. The things are not anymore normal. The third part, that is the climax or the crisis. It is here, it is the climax that denotes the part where things take a turn for the better or for worse, depending on whether it is a comedy or tragedy. So we know that things will be bit better. The actions and everything related to it will become better if it is a comedy and will become worse if it is a tragedy. Again, I'll explain with the example from Hamlet itself. Here, the rising action reaches a climax, a top point. Usually we'll refer to climax of movies as the ending, conclusion. But in drama, or as per this 5-part structure of drama, climax is the third part, is only the third part, and it is here that the rising action reaches the climax. With reference to Hamlet, we can see that it is here, Claudius' guilt is proved. I'll elaborate more on that. That is, Junior Hamlet, that is Prince Hamlet, will plan a play within a play. In fact, Hamlet, we know, is a play, and inside that we can see that the Hamlet and other people, they will perform a play within a play. And the play's name, the play that is happening within the play Hamlet, its name or the title is The Mousetrap or The Murder of Gonzago. So he'll try, through the play, he'll try to recreate the scenes that would have happened during the murder of King Hamlet. And why is he doing so? Why is he planning such a play? Is because he has to confirm whether what the King Hamlet had told, what the ghost had told, is true. If such a scene is recreated in front of Claudius, and if Claudius is guilty, then they can easily catch him. Then Prince Hamlet can easily catch him with the expression on his face. And thus, he'll plan for a play within a play. That is The Mousetrap or The Murder of Gonzago. And with that, the King Claudius, who was then the king, King Claudius' guilt is very much revealed. So Hamlet's first aim is to catch Claudius' conscience. He wanted to make sure that what King Hamlet or the ghost of the King Hamlet had told was true, because he can't simply go and avenge the death of his father. Simply he can't go and accuse Claudius of killing his father. So there arises a tension. The rising action, the issues that had happened during the rising action reaches a climax, an ultimate point. And now the fourth point, or the fourth part, that is denouement. That is the falling action. Falling action or denouement denotes the part where the complications are resolved. So things will start to get resolved. Here in Hamlet, Claudius, King Claudius will control everything. He is in control of everything. So Hamlet has to do something. He should be on his heels. He should take an action immediately. So there the complications are getting resolved. And by Claudius taking control of everything reveals that he has some hand in the death of King Hamlet. And the last part, catastrophe or resolution, it refers to the conclusion of the play. It is in the resolution part or in the catastrophe part we will come to know whether the action ends in success or in failure. If it is a comedy, it tends to end in success, or the problems will get resolved. And if it is a tragedy, then everything will be a failure. So these are the 5-part structure of a play. Please remember it. It is very important. And I had told you, dramatists such as Chekhov and Ibsen reduce the number of acts to 4. So Chekhov, Chekhov, he had written The Cherry Orchard, and then Henrik Ibsen, his famous play A Doll's House. So they had reduced the number of acts to 4, and then many 20th century playwrights used a 3-act structure. And in modern drama, people had further reduced the number of acts, and in the late 19th century we have witnessed the emergence of 1-act play. The 1-act plays, when they were first emerged, they emerged. The 1-act plays were often used as curtain raisers to a longer play, but later, gradually, they began to be staged independently. A number of major dramatists since the 19th century, such as Chekhov, Shaw, George Bernard Shaw, and J.M. Synge, Eugene O'Neill, Beckett, and Pinter, all of them had enriched this form, and they have written a number of 1-act plays. And there is one more category of drama, that is the closet dramas. The closet dramas are those dramas which are meant for reading and not for performance. The closet dramas are written usually in verse, and they are meant for reading and not for performance. So they usually have a function of that of a novel rather than being something that is to be performed, because closet dramas are meant to be read. Some examples of closet dramas. The examples of closet dramas are Milton's Samson Agonistes, which was written in 1671. You will have a slide of that later. And Byron's Manfred, written in 1817. Shelley's Prometheus Unbound, written in 1820. Then Browning's Pippa Passes, written in 1841. So all these are examples of closet dramas. You will have a slide of that later so that you can note down the names of the works and their respective writers. Coming to the next third part of this chapter, that is realism and romance. First, let's begin with Dryden's definition of a play. A play is a just and lively image of human nature, representing its passions and humors and the changes of fortune to which it is subject for the delight and instruction of mankind. So here he tells about different features or different characteristics a drama should possess. That is, it is a just and lively image. Just means justful. It is in full justice to human nature. So it is a just and lively image of human nature, representing its passions and humors. If we read plays or dramas, we can see our life or our passions being reflected in them. And humors. Humors are the different humors inside man, not the wit in the meaning, but then humor means the different humors. Do you remember? Which are blood, yellow bile, black bile, phlegm. So these are the humors in human body, and the dominance of each humor will determine the character of a person. And thus Dryden is saying that it is just a lively image of human nature. It reflects human nature with full sincerity, and it represents its passion and humor. So it represents all the feelings, emotions, passions that humans undergo, and the changes of fortune to which it is subject. It also represents the changes of fortune. Sometimes the luck may favor, or sometimes it wouldn't be favoring, and thus the final aim of drama is to delight and instruct mankind, is for the delight and instruction of mankind. It should both entertain and it should inform. So delight and instruction. Remember that point. Drama is the dramatist's criticism of life, a version, not a reproduction. What it means here is, a great play is the product of imagination working upon experience and observation, whatever the theme may be. So a drama, it wouldn't be purely fictional, it wouldn't be purely factual, but it will be a combination of both. We wouldn't be reflecting just the things that we see in our surroundings, but rather if I write a play, if I get exposed to a particular incident, the way I write would be different from how another person would be writing about the same incident. A number of people would have written about nature, but then each person's each person's product is different from one another. Sometimes in a drama we see characters which are larger than life, which those people which we wouldn't be seeing in our daily life. So all these things are possible in drama or any other work of art or literature or fiction. So we can say that a drama is a version, not a reproduction, not an exact reproduction of something that the person has experienced, that the playwright or dramatist had experienced or lived, but rather it is a version. It is his or her version of how he has experienced or witnessed a situation. Thus, drama is the dramatist's criticism of life. That's it. So with that, we'll end the first chapter. In the coming chapter, we'll deal with dramatic types, mainly tragedy and comedy, and we can further elaborate upon all those points. If you have any doubt, please contact me and try to answer the questions which had been posted in between. So I hope all the ideas are clear for you. Thank you so much.